Let's continue our conversation with Congressman Steve King, Republican of Iowa, joining us this morning by telephone. Steve, before the break, you set forth some very stark projections on what will happen if, in fact, the president enacts amnesty via executive order after the election. My question simply is this: if he does so, what is Congress prepared to do in response?
Some of that's going to depend upon, JD, on what kind of a response comes from the American people. I can say what I'm prepared to do. If the president violates this Constitution by executive edict in whatever form the document takes and seeks to legalize several million people or 5 to 9 million or more people, I've said that wherever I am, if I'm not in Washington, I will go directly to the airport. I will go to Washington, D.C. I'm going to call for John Boehner to call for a special session. I'm going to hope he beats me to that. I hope he's anticipating this too. And I don't figure that going to the Capitol and asking people to come there to surround the Capitol does us any good, but surrounding the White House might. If we're not willing to go there and protest outside the gates of the president's residence until he lets go of this unconstitutional action, then I don't know how we stop this. We can cut off some funding, and then he will threaten to shut down the government, and likely he will shut down the government again if we do that. He's going to throw a tantrum to get the unconstitutional act that he wants. We know there is the I word in the Constitution that none of us want to say or act on, but I would never have said that there will be no boots on the ground. So in this context, everything is on the table because our republic is on the table. Our constitutional republic is on the table. We cannot have a president of the United States that believes that he can make up the law as he goes. So far now, he has ordered ICE to break the law. They've complied with his order that ICE break the law by refusing to put people into removal proceedings that they encounter that are here illegally. If he says this blanket amnesty for 5 to 9 million people, the American people had better be ready to go to Washington, D.C. We had 40 to 60,000 people surrounded the Capitol over Obamacare. We nearly killed Obamacare. This cannot be allowed to stand, or America will be transformed into a third world nation, a lawless third world nation with a king sitting in the White House, and it won't be me, JD.
Steve, let me get you to clarify. You mentioned obliquely the I word. To what word or what action are you referring?
Well, that would be that word in the Constitution that is how you remove a person from office who has violated the principles, and that, of course, is the impeachment word. I would not say that there will be no boots on the ground. I would not say that I would rule out anything. But we'd better be prepared to, at all costs, defend the Constitution. And a lawless president in the United States, occupying the White House, was not something our founding fathers ever imagined would happen. Well, I guess they did, because they put that provision in the Constitution to deal with it. Now, I'm not advocating that's the first card to play, but it surely is not one that you take off the table.
All right, Steve, let me get back to this notion of peaceable assembly. Because, some people are going to hear you say the American people need to surround the White House, and they're going to suggest something that might be a bit more active, or they'll mischaracterize it. Again, when you talk about people coming to Washington, if the president moves forward with amnesty, exactly what do you have in mind?
What I have in mind is exercising our First Amendment rights. We have the right to freedom of speech, religion, and press, and the right to peaceably assemble to petition the government for redress of grievances. That's a constitutional right. I believe it's precisely quoted out of the First Amendment of the United States Constitution. And if the president violates the Constitution, we have every right, we have a duty, we have an obligation to exercise our constitutional rights to let him know we're not going to tolerate it.
A minute and a half remains, Steve. Let me get your thoughts on a couple of other stories. They're related to who comes into this country in the wake of the Ebola outbreak. Should there be a travel ban on those affected nations in West Africa?
Absolutely. That should have been called by the president a long time ago. There should be no planes coming from there. I know they've got to stop and fuel on the way. There should be no people coming that have boarded planes that originated there that are connecting and coming to the United States. And there are about 150 a day that are people that are arriving in the United States from those Ebola-infected regions. That needs to be shut off. We need to create a no-fly list for those who have been exposed, like, say, the Dallas healthcare workers. When they were quarantined, there should have been a no-fly list, period. You're not going to get on public transportation, at least not TSA, that we can put up a software package on. Tom Frieden needs to go. He has lost his credibility. He's done so multiple times.
And Steve, as we close out right here, it is worth amplifying. You are saying the director of the CDC needs to quit or be fired. 20 seconds. Yes, that's what you're saying.
That's what I'm saying. He's lost his credibility. We need someone who will give us factual medical information, not a political spin doctor, somebody that can restore
Fair
the
enough.
confidence
Steve,
in the CDC.
I have to call time because we're out of it. Congressman Steve King, thank you so much.